Hello friends, welcome back to Easy Nurse, where nursing education made easy. With today's session, we are going to end the unit of physiology, the blood, with an interesting and important and one of the integral part of our immune system that plays an important role in defending our body from the foreign bodies, from the pathogens, by the process of phagocytosis and various other ways. So that's the reticuloendothelial system, or often known as RES, that takes an important part in defending our body from the pathogens and the foreign bodies. So let's join to understand this important integral part of our immune system, the RES, or the reticuloendothelial system. This reticuloendothelial system is basically a series of cells. This is a various group of cells that take part in defending our body from various locations of our body, in the different areas of our body, in protecting and defending the body from pathogens and various other microorganisms. So it's also referred as the macrophage system of the body because of its action of macrophages, and it's also referred as the integral part of the phagocytic system. So only it's also referred as the mononuclear phagocytic system because of its important role in the process of phagocytosis. The main role that this RES, the reticuloendothelial system, takes place is the phagocytosis. So as I told you that there are different cells which are taking part in our body to defend against the pathogens. So it is being divided into two types of cells. What are those? The first one is the fixed reticuloendothelial cells. So in a country where you will see the different forces and the armies which are located on a particular location, they cannot move from that location. They have to safeguard, they have to defend that particular location, as we have seen the border security force, which are always allocating on the border areas, and they cannot move into the inner cities, they cannot move into the inner matters of the state. They have to always protect the country from the border side, so they cannot move from that border area into the inner cities. Same is the case with the fixed reticuloendothelial cells. They are located in particular organ of our body. They cannot move from that body organ to another organ. They have to be in that particular region to fight against the pathogens, to fight against the antigens. Same is the role of the macrophages, such as in the spleen, in our liver. We have the different type of macrophage named as the Keffler cells. In our lungs, we have different types of macrophage known as the alveolar macrophage. And in the bone marrow, we have the different and particular macrophage. And finally, in the lymph nodes. So all of these organs, all of these have their own type of macrophage that is going to defend against the pathogens. Apart from that, on the other side, you may have seen in the forces or the armies, we have patrolling on armies, the patrolling forces who are always on patrolling on the cities, on the states. They have been always from one station to another station, from one camp to another camp, to defend its intercities and to defend the enemies in the inner city areas. Same is the case with the wandering reticuloendothelial cells, which are always traveling across the blood, which are always wandering in the blood throughout the body and are protecting the body. So wherever there is an injury, wherever there is an attack, wherever there is an antigen or pathogen, they are going to attack that. They are going to move to that side. They are going to rush towards that and fight that antigen in that particular area. That are your neutrophils and the monocytes. So these cells will be always present in your blood and will reach that particular area and are going to fight with the pathogen. Now, let us move towards the important aspect of the RES, that is the function and the role of reticuloendothelial system in our body. So, as discussed earlier, that the main role and the main purpose of the RES is the phagocytosis. So, the first and the primary role of it is the phagocytic function. So, we know what is the process of phagocytosis. As the macrophages engulf the bacteria or any pathogen and destruct that process is whole called as the phagocytosis. So, in this process, what actually happens when the antigen enters into our body in a particular area, the macrophage is going to surround that bacteria, and then it will ingest that bacteria. As it ingests the bacteria inside, it will combine with the lysozyme, and when it combines with the lysozyme, it's called as a phagosome. Then the lysozymes will release some bactericidal agents, they will release some mediators, and those are going to kill, they are cause the lysis of this bacteria, and will distribute and will disturb and will disperse it into the different parts, and then following with the exocytosis, the remaining parts of the bacteria or any pathogen will be released out from the body. So that's your process of phagocytosis. So in the macrophages, we know these are the large phagocytic cells and can kill more than 100 types of bacteria at a time inside it and can destruct them. So after that, following is what will happen? As the antigen enters, they are going to cause activation of cells with the receptor site, and then finally leading to the process of phagocytosis. Now coming towards the second function is the secretion of bactericidal agents. The bactericidal agents are those agents which are going to kill the bacteria. So your tissue macrophages are going to release some of the agents, some of the secretions, and those are going to attack the bacteria and kill them, and those secretions or these agents are called as the oxidants in our body. And what are the common oxidants that are being released? They are the superoxide, the hydrogen peroxide, and the hydroxyl ions. So as the agent enters into our body macrophages are going to release some of the oxidants that we have discussed, and then they are going to kill that bacteria. And we have the secretion of the interleukins. The interleukins take part, very important in our body. They are going to activate our B and T lymphocytes and play an important role in the immunity. So what are all the interleukins that take part in this? So your RES is going to secrete the interleukins. They will cause different roles. So what are that? The interleukin 1, or also called as IL-1, is going to accelerate the maturation and the proliferation of the specific B cells and T cells. So your interleukin 1 is going to cause maturation and the growth of or the proliferation of the B and T lymphocytes, and we know the role of B and T lymphocytes in the body. After that, we have the interleukin 6. It is going to cause the growth of especially the B lymphocytes, and apart from that, it will form the antibodies that are going to play a role in immunity, defense system. And we have interleukin 12. This is going to take part in the T lymphocytes. So it is going to influence the helper T cells. One of the classification of T cells is the helper T cells. So we know the role of helper T cells. So this is going to influence those helper T cells, and they will play their respective role. Apart from that, we have the secretion of the tumor necrosis factors, and these are the factors which are going to destruct the tumor in our body. We have the tumor necrosis factor alpha and factor beta. So they are respectively going to take part in destructing the tumors of our body. Apart from that, beta is going to cause stimulation of the other immune response in our body. And we have the secretion of transforming growth factor. So your RES, the reticuloendothelial system, is going to secrete the transforming growth factor, and this factor is very important because it plays an important role whenever you are transferring the organ or any tissue in the body. There will be the that's called immunosuppression because of that. So this factor is going to prevent that rejection from that immunosuppression of that particular organ. And finally, we have the secretion of colonial stimulation factor. This factor is very important. This is also called the MCSF. Okay, M colonial stimulation factor, and it is going to take part. What is the function of this factor? It is going to increase the growth of the granulocytes, the monocytes, and the macrophages. So when your granulocytes will increase, your number of neutrophils and other cells will also increase. When the monocytes will increase, your macrophages will also increase. So these are going to take part in the defense system. And following with the secretion of platelet-derived growth factor. So your RES, reticuloendothelial system, is going to secrete the platelet-derived growth factor. And what is the role of this platelet-derived growth factor? It is going to heal your injuries of blood vessels. So wherever the blood vessels will be damaged and the wound healing, it will help in the reparation of that damaged part and help in the wound healing process. And we have the removal of carbon particles and the silicon particles. So whenever any product of the carbon and silicon enters into our body, the tissue macrophages are going to remove that carbon and the silicon particles from our body. Apart from that, the destruction of the senile RBCs. So what happens? What is the role of RES, the reticular endothelial system? They are going to take part, as we know that as the RBC have the lifespan of 120 days. After that, what happens? They are going to destruct in the spleen. So reticular endothelial system is going to take part in that particular destruction of RBCs, and hence releasing the hemoglobin from that. Now finally, we know already that the hemoglobin is also being destructed. It is also being degraded. So RES takes part in that also, destruction of the hemoglobin. From the broken senile RBC, you are getting the hemoglobin, and that hemoglobin is also degraded by your RES, the reticular endothelial system. So that was all. With this, we have completed our physiology unit of blood. I hope this session was very useful for you. See you in the next video. Until that, goodbye. Thank you.